Welcome everyone. I'm hosting this from my computer in San Luis Obispo. I'm Cricket Handler, co-director of Canzona. We're going to start by having our artistic directors introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about them. It's wonderful to have the three choirs together. And we're going to start with Dory from the Seattle area.
Dory, you're muted.
Thank you so much. Well, that was just as well. I'm putting a stopwatch on, so I won't go over my allotted time. Yeah, I'm Dory Bonsgaard. I am from the Seattle area. However, I spent many years overseas directing choirs and teaching music, first of all in India and then in Japan for many years. So did a lot of stuff over there. I have done lots of choir stuff. I also have a little bit of background in drama, so I've kind of crept over into the musicals side. That's been quite fun. This is my 6th year with Brio, and we're a part of a larger organization. Glenda, I will tell you about our organization later, but we've done lots of cool things. We do concerts. We often join together with other choirs from the organization to do concerts, but we also have done some fun touring things. I think my very first year we did just a small tour down to Portland and collaborated with Joan Simcoe's choir, Aurora Chorus. That was very cool. We've done a couple of trips back to New York City with choirs there, Contigas, and also BVS singers. That was quite fun. And well, we're looking forward to all the possibilities for the future. In fact, we'd love to come to California. I do other things besides Brio. I don't teach in schools full time anymore. I do dabble sometimes. I do some adjudication. I do some piano stuff, some accompanying. I also co-conduct a touring-only women's choir called Wanderlust Women's Choir of Seattle. We toured a couple of years ago to Budapest, Slovenia, and Northern Italy, and we are touring again in 2022. So that's what my life is about.
Great, thanks for that introduction. We're going to move on to Mitchell.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Mitchell Covington, and I direct Voci, as you can see on your screens. I live in Pleasant Hill, California, up in Northern California. I'm just across the bay and through a tunnel from San Francisco. I live with my wife, Laurel, and our dog, Chester. We have 2 grown daughters. I've directed choirs of every description for at least, I'm going to say, 3 decades plus. And I've taken choirs on tour to Europe, and I've also done a lot of festival and competition adjudication. And, you know, the fun little Snapple fact about me and Voci is I actually founded Voci almost 30 years ago. Directed them for like, what, 5 years, Terry? Which seemed back when I was in my late 20s, like a long time. And then I moved on to other things. Voci moved on to other directors, and recently they called me and said, hey, would you like to come back and direct us? And I said, are you kidding me? Yes. And when I came back, I found out that they had just grown into an amazing ensemble. I felt like somebody handed me a Steinway piano to play. And I've been really, really just loving working with them. And that was 3 or 4 years ago. I should always ask my friend Terry, who's here tonight, because she was one of the very founding members. When I'm not conducting choirs and composing music, I'm also a composer of choral music. I write music for television, stage, films, chorus, orchestra. That's becoming a bigger and bigger part of my life, actually. When I'm not doing that, I like to ride my bike and cook. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks, Mitchell. Okay, I'm going to let my co-director, Jill Anderson, speak next.
Okay, hello. Well, I'm Jill Anderson, and I come to Canzona Cricket and I were the co-founders of this group, but I've had a kind of a very varied background. I've sung chorally since I was 5 years old, and in, you know, Glee Club and in college and so forth. But I really was more interested in opera. I was a voice major in college and graduate school. I got a master's at USC in opera, and then I got a doctorate in vocal studies from UCSB. And in LA, I did sing with the LA Master Chorale under Roger Wagner, believe it or not, I'm that old. And I also started a small chamber group, a madrigal group called Qualche Voce, and we did a number of recordings for a lot of early music for the Musical Heritage Society. And that was what I had done till I moved to San Luis Obispo. And then once I moved here, I realized that a niche that I could occupy was opera here, since there was no opera. So I started the local opera company, which I'm proud to say is still going, although it's with my successor because I retired from that 12 years ago. But we have an opera company in San Luis Obispo called, now it's called Opera Slow. I called it Pacific Repertory Opera. And that was a very fun thing to do. And I also commuted up to San Francisco and sang in the San Francisco Opera Chorus for 10 seasons from here. But when I retired from the local opera, my dear friend Cricket, we were in a gourmet cooking group together. She kept talking all the time. One of these days, I want to start a women's choir. And I keep saying, well, all right, okay, well, why don't you just do it? All right, now that I'm retired, I'll help you do it. So we rounded up a bunch of singers from our community. And that was actually 11 or 12 years ago. We started in 2009. We've been going for over 10 years, but of course, the last year has not been so productive. But it's strictly doing choral music as opposed to opera, and solo music is different for me, but I'm really enjoying it. I've learned a lot from Cricket, and I did conduct the opera choruses for our local opera company. So I've done a fair amount of conducting, but just not the fine-tuned women's choral conducting that I'm doing now, but I'm really loving it, and I love our group and our women. So that's it about me.
Thanks, Jill, and thank you for kicking me in the behind and making me start Canzona, because I certainly had talked about it for a long time. At the time I was singing with the Vocal Arts Ensemble, which is an SATB choir here, and I grew up loving music. I grew up on the East Coast. I lived in Rhode Island till I was 16, and then came to California, and then went to finished high school and went to college and graduate school out here. Moved to San Luis Obispo and was raising my two sons, and eventually joined the Vocal Arts Ensemble, did some assistant conducting, and then got going with Canzona. But before that, I had the job of running I was the ED of our local symphony for 10 years, and which gave me a great opportunity to meet a lot of wonderful instrumentalists in the county, and also meet my current husband, who was our principal trumpet player. He played for 40 years in the symphony and recently retired from that. He's much older than I am, but which is why he has 2 vaccines already. So, but it was also one of the reasons that I was able to really, it was important to me that we hire instrumentalists for almost every one of our concerts, which we have done. And we know so many, both Jill and I, from her opera experience, know so many in the community. So very often a Canzona concert will include some kind of instrumentalist or pair of instrumentalists on our concerts. I worked at our high school, local high school, in the choral music program for 17 years, which was a wonderful experience. Got to go to ACDA National and play the piano on the stage of Lincoln Center, which was nerve-wracking. And when I'm not doing music, I love to cook, I love to knit, I love to do jigsaw puzzles, and try to stay in touch with our 7 grandchildren that we have between us, although 3 of the little ones live in Milwaukee and I haven't seen them in more than a year, which makes me sad, but the local ones we do see. So that's me. Now we're going to move on to the choir representatives. I know that we've each chosen somebody to talk a little bit about her choir, and we're going to start with Voci. So Mitchell, whoever you've asked.
Okay, I've asked Michelle Pritchard, one of our altos, to introduce you to Voci.
Hello, everyone.
As you can tell, I'm very excited based on all of the exclamation points in my name. I am Michelle Pitcher. I'm an Alto 1, as Mitchell mentioned, and I'd like to take everyone back to the year 1991. I was but a twinkle in my parents' eye, but as Mitchell mentioned, he founded Voci that year, so we're coming up on our 30th anniversary. Mitchell was our pioneering director, and some of the original cohort, including Terry Myers, are still singing with us today. So over the course of the last 3 decades, Voci has done almost 80 concert performances, including a smattering of private concerts in homes and concerts in churches around the East Bay. We had an impromptu one last year around a campfire because we were lucky enough to go to a Santa Cruz retreat right before, you know. So I joined Voci in 2017, and just over the past few years, the repertoire has really sort of run the gamut. We've done Britain, Rachmaninoff, Norwegian folk music, original pieces by Mitchell and by a composer in residence. And we've worked with some orchestras in the area, and it's just been really, really fun and eclectic and rewarding experience. So yeah, Voci is full of some of the grooviest women and Mitchell that I've ever met. I really hope that we get to spend some time together, after and socially via Zoom, because you can always count on Voci women for a laugh and a wild story and a wine recommendation. So I am thrilled to be representing Voci, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we're delighted to be here.
Thanks, Michelle. That is a great introduction. We're big wine fans as well, so I can see we're all going to get along very well. So I thought next we'd go to Brio. So Dory, whoever you've chosen to represent your choir.
Glenda is going to talk to us about Brio.
Yay, it's the altos. Altos night to speak. So I'm in the A2. My name's Glenda, and we are part of Columbia Choirs of Metropolitan Seattle, which was formed 38 years ago by Steve Stevens. Currently, there are 9 choirs that are part of that group, Brio being one of them. We were actually the second choir. It was formed initially as a boys' choir, but all the moms had a rebellion and presented to Steve that they wanted a choir too. So Brio was formed shortly after that. Our mission is to unite people through the power of music to create a singing community. And within our group, we are attorneys, we're doctors, we're nurses, we're teachers, we're moms, we're writers, we're managers, we're techies, we're nurses, veterinarians, the whole 9 yards. But more than anything else, we're friends who love music and singing together. And it's just fun to expand the community more. With all of you as well. We sing a variety of music as well, but when Dory joined us in 2014, she brought movement. So now we're learning how to clap, we're learning how to move our feet, and other kinds of things as we sing. With her coaching, we're getting there, but we have a lot of fun doing it, and often the wine helps to make that happen too. So thank you for inviting us to join in this collaborative project. It's great fun.
Well, thank you, Glenda. That's great. Well, we have another alto because Nikki Edwards, who sings with the Canzona and has been singing with us since the very first season, is going to represent our choir.
Well, I'm thrilled to be starting to get to know all of you, because it sounds like, we are all sisters. We all kind of love the same things. And here in little San Luis Obispo County, we are so lucky to have Canzona and our 2 wonderful very talented directors, musical directors. Thing about San Luis, and I was thinking this as I was considering what to say to you tonight, was, you know, the two other choirs that are represented here come from big metropoli. We our total population in this county is about 250,000 people. San Luis Obispo, the city, is about, I don't know, 50,000 people, and then some more from Cal Poly. We have singers, about 25 of us typically. We do 2 concerts a year, except when COVID strikes. And our singers come from all over the county. One thing I can say about this county is that we are immensely lucky that there are so many people who live here, in spite of how small we are, who love the arts, who are musicians themselves, or who appreciate music and the other arts. And we are so lucky to have this fabulous group of musicians to choose from, to be in our very special choir that's been around since 2009. We have not done a whole lot of traveling. Our biggest travel was up to Vancouver, where we joined with Electra and choirs from another choir from Canada and one from Norway to have a festival of choral music that was just a blast. Our only other big trip, I think, was to Los Angeles. So that was maybe not quite as exciting, but in terms of, you know, glamour, but we were showing ourselves off to the big city. And I'm very proud to be part of this choir of exceptional women who, like the rest of you know, are varied. Some of our women are professional musicians. Most of us are not, but we've sung for a long time and just love doing all the music that's out there for women. So thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Well, it sounds like we'll all get along very well together when we finally can all get together. We're very excited that we can now fly direct to Seattle on Alaska Airlines from San Luis Obispo when we all want to fly again. Or you can fly our way. So now we're going to actually have Mitchell speak to us about the piece, how he chose the piece, what he'd like us to know about the piece. Anything you'd like to tell us about the piece, Mitchell, we're all ears.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, so let's see. First, just wanted to let you know a little bit about like my approach to music in general. As a composer, the words are the most important thing to me. I am always interested in finding texts that are about healing and hope, that are uplifting and inspiring. This setting of Lark in the Clear Air was written before the pandemic. For Voci to sing, and it's a companion piece to another piece that I wrote called setting of the American folk song O Shenandoah. We didn't get to perform this setting, obviously, because everything changed suddenly, but you can hear O Shenandoah at my YouTube channel. And I'm so thrilled that you're all going to help me bring this piece of music to life in the midst of all of this craziness. Let's see, the text, the poetry for Lark in the Clear Air was written by a man named Samuel Ferguson in the early mid 19th century. The melody is a folk song. The melody that's most closely associated with this text is actually an English folk song. So the Lark in the Clear Air isn't technically a folk song, but the melody is an English folk song. I vividly remember reading this poem several years ago, and wondering as I read what's going to happen to this guy, you know, because tomorrow he's gonna tell his this girl that he loves her. And I was pulling for him because I really like a happy ending. And unfortunately, we never find out. What did she say? We never got to hear the end of the story. And I kind of like that too. I like to think that she loves him too, but it's an open question. So that was partly of the attraction for me. This setting is dedicated to my wife, Laurel, who is actually here. You can find her on your screens. She's singing on the recording. And last Sunday on Valentine's Day, we celebrated our 40th anniversary of our first kiss. So I know it was on Valentine's Day. And so it's very appropriate that we're talking about this piece right now about this guy who's going to be professing his love to this woman. It's a very, very sweet story. And I think it should be performed dolce, very sweetly and legato throughout. Let the soft sections be soft. Even the mezzo forte sections should have an easiness about them. So I don't know, Cricket, if you want to do questions now, or if there's another time in the agenda that we're going to do them.
This would be a fine time. I think if you're kind of wrapping up with what you want to tell us.
Yeah,
about
that's it. I mean, I wanted to keep it short and sweet.
I have a question.
Can I suggest something?
Okay.
It works really well if people put their questions in the chat and then somebody moderates the chat and gives you the questions.
Sorry, we thought we would start by raising hands. If we get bogged down, we're going to move over to the chat idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Sam.
My question is, can you tell us a little bit about how you take each person's individual recording and weave them all together into a
Oh, how does it happen?
What the process is?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have, so as I mentioned earlier, I score music for film and television. So I have a very sophisticated digital audio studio in my home. And it lets me take all of your recordings and edit them together. So I balance out each individual section, and then I balance the sections among themselves using that software. And then I sometimes, and I add a teeny bit of reverb so that it doesn't sound like it was all recorded in somebody's bedroom. And that's pretty much, I do a little EQ also to make sure that it's nice balanced tone. And if you can hear a door slam in the background or a car whiz by, I can always lower the volume just in that one section. It's not really noticeable. So yeah, and then I create a little MP3 file from all of that big mix down, which I then go to my video editing software, and I start to do the job of putting all your faces together with that recording.
Great. Do we have any other questions right now? Because if we don't, we're going to move into our, oh wait, Terry has a question.
It's not really a question, but I think it's going to come up, is to just talk about those couple of measures that have interesting rhythms that might be, Mitchell has a good way of explaining. Measure 12 and 13, I think it's 13 or 14.
Yeah, I had a few people asking about that. So I did, I did send out an explanation of those to the people that asked me. It's kind of hard to talk about those on a Zoom call. I do have a little tutorial. If anybody wants to, wants to ask me about those measures, I can send you some advice on that. And I think I also sent some notes to the other directors that they've shared with their choirs about that measure, those two measures. The 16th notes are tricky, and as the composer, I was worried about them. But the other thing is that my little small group choir that created the practice tracks did such a good job with those rhythms. So I don't want to, I would have to screen share to really say any more about that. And I'm not really prepared to do that, so.
Con Brio one of the Con Brio singers had a question. Slava, I think, had a question. Are you there, Slava?
Don't forget to unmute.
Looking for unmute button. There you go. Found it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
this tied a little bit better to your comment that first you're doing the audio recording, tying all of us together so that it all sounds beautiful. And then you move on to the video and making sure that the picture is just as beautiful as the audio was. And I know that our original instruction calls for us to record audio and video together, but would there be an option of splitting the two based on the experience that we've had recording some of the things for our virtual concerts that we had a couple of times so far? It seemed like a great opportunity to make it look just as good as it sounds when we were recording separately audio and video.
So, Slava, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by splitting the two. I could interpret that a number of different ways.
So what we did for our beautiful member, Jenna, who was doing this for us, is we would record our audio similar to what you were proposing when you were giving us instructions how to record, but we were, while singing, making all those beautiful faces when we tend to make when we sing, and squinting and screeching, and like we were free to make all the faces that we wanted because we knew this video wasn't going to be used for anything. And then we would use that audio recording later on to record just video of ourselves singing, at which time we had an opportunity to actually sing it if we wanted to, but Jenna was not using that for audio. She was just using the picture, the video, the actual video. And Jenna, if I am saying something wrong, correct me, please.
No, that's exactly right. So people could have a choice of doing the audio either just in MP3 or with video. That was their choice. But then for the video portion of it, they could either lip sync, in which case they would be paying more attention to their faces and not worrying about holding their breath too long or anything.
Okay, I think I understand. Thank you. So good question. A lot of people ask that. Yes, you can do both. Make sure that you do clap in both recordings so that I don't have to spend too much time syncing. I would much prefer putting them together, but I completely understand and will accept if you want to send me an MP3 and either a .mov file or an MP4 file, right? And even if the MP4 file has audio in it, I won't use that. I'll use the audio from your MP3, okay? The only thing I ask is that you don't use the Memos app on your phone to record your audio, because some phones produce a file format that's very, very cumbersome for me to work with. So if you're going to record audio only, still use your video recording. If you want, you can face it away from yourself or put a piece of tape over the camera or whatever, or switch the camera so that it's coming out of the back of your phone. So I also want to just go back to Terry's questions, because Terry asked the best questions, and sometimes it takes me a second to get it. If you guys have your scores handy and you want to look at measure 13, the one thing that I would say about that 16th note is that just don't let it pop out too much, okay? It doesn't need to be accented. It's already accented in time, and it goes up. For most of the voices, you're going from one note up to a higher note on that 16th note anticipation or syncopation. Just don't let that pop out too much. I'm glad that Terry Reyes brought that up.
I have a question. When we're recording, do we listen first for the introduction and then start, or do we just start recording right away where the voice comes in?
So that's also a really good question. I get asked that a lot. Because there's a long time to just sit there, right, with nobody looking at you. The only thing is, though, I need you to clap at the downbeat of the introduction. So unfortunately, don't be self-conscious. Nobody will get to see it but me, right? Carla, tell me if I answered the question you meant to ask.
So we clap at the downbeat of the introduction, then sit there for the whole duration, then start. You're muted. You're muted.
My understanding is that you would be recording that whole time because Mitchell has to see or hear that clap. If you're just doing audio, he has to hear it. If you're doing audio video, he has to see it. So then just smile through that whole introduction like you would if you're standing on the stage and the accompanist is playing beautifully.
Yeah, or you can take a sip of water, or you can go and, you know, open your window or whatever. Whatever sound is on there will not end up on the recording, right? I won't start up your sound until you start singing. And it's kind of it's a longer than usual introduction. I was very self-conscious about this, but you know, it's okay. When you're in concert, you're going to have to stand there and be very still for that and look beautiful. So no one will see it but me.
I have a question. What are you using, the oboe or a violin? What are you using?
I have an oboist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That'll be beautiful.
And I think, is there not an oboe on any of the versions I've sent you yet?
On the all parts, there is an oboe.
Yeah, there's an oboe on the all parts. Yeah. Okay.
I highly recommend everyone, if you haven't listened to the oboe, the piano, and all voices together, it really gives a sense, well, obviously because it's the whole piece, but it comes together so beautifully, and it gives that sense of the whole piece rather than just your individual part. So I really plug for the whole piece, listening to the whole piece.
I agree. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're going to hear it tonight because that's what we're going to sing to after we come back from the breakout rooms. So do we have any more questions before we go into our breakout rooms? I'm just looking on both sheets here.
I have one. Mitchell, I was wondering what inspired you to use this text other than it was a nice poem you came across.
Well, yeah, you know what? The text moved me. I mean, it is a nice poem, but it really moved me. And I probably was the mood that I was in at the time. I also think I have a soft place in my heart for 19th century English poetry. I was looking for a companion piece to O Shenandoah, which everybody knows. I was looking for a piece that isn't as well known, although I have seen, to my dismay, several arrangements for women's chorus after I wrote this, and I'm worried about, you know, getting it published. But so there was, you know, I love reading poems. I love poetry. I have books of poetry. I find poems online. I have friends give me poems, and every once in a while I will find a text, and I just have this, I have to set this feeling. I have to do it. This one is a little bit lighter than most of the texts that I set. I mean, I haven't done many folk arrangements. I've done arrangements written by women in the past 10 years, of poetry written by women in the past 10 years. And I love new poetry, but I wanted to do this little set of 2 folk songs. So, you know, I don't have anything earth-shatteringly dramatic about this piece that hit me upside the head, other than just, I said, I really want to set this. And the melody of the folk song also was very compelling to me. So, yeah.
I just want to share that Canzona actually has sung a different arrangement of Lark in the Clear Air twice. We did it not too long ago. The version that we did was 3-part. It did not have the changing meters, which was very interesting to me. And until I listened to the wonderful recording by that Irish singer, whose name I've now forgotten, playing the, I think, tenor guitar to back herself up. Yeah. And that's when I realized, oh yes, this really does have all these changing meters. And I also want to say that, Mitchell, your arrangement of Shenandoah is beautiful. And that was really what got the 2 of us talking about this project.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm hoping to sing that someday.
So, Cricket, I know we need to move into the next thing, but I'm glad you mentioned that Irish woman who has this arrangement. I wish you could have remembered her name, because right before you said that, I was kicking myself that I didn't write it down.
Oh, well,
and we can email that around, but I knew that YouTube that you sent me because her arrangement inspired me to do the mixed meters. She moves back from 3/4 time to 4/4 time.
Yeah.
And the use of triplets also, although that's a part of my style, is using triplets and duplets back and forth within a piece. So so we'll have to find out. I want to give her a credit because she definitely inspired this arrangement. Although, you know, I'm hoping that you will see it's quite different. Hoping that one will see that it's quite different.
So, okay, well, I've got the rooms all ready to go. I'm just going to open them up, and we're going to spend about 12 minutes, which gives you, each one of you, it's mostly 4 people per room. Remember our 2 prompts. Our prompts are, what's the big thing that you want to do when we come out of the pandemic? The first big thing you want to do. And the other prompt was, what's the most interesting concert in which you've ever sung? So those are our prompts. I'll open up the rooms and I'll see you back in the main room in about 12 minutes.
Here they come, more people.
If we're going to sing, I need to go get my music.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to sing. So you need to go get your, because I'm not going to share the score on the screen, I think, unless I absolutely have to, because then it covers up places and stuff. So.
Someone singing in the background.
That's nice. They'll be on the recording. We are recording again, so. I did have it off though while Dory and I chatted for 12 minutes, so we won it.
We're back.
Wish we had a chance to meet some of the other choirs. Our group was all come Brio.
I'm really sorry that happened. I did it randomly, but then I realized, oh my gosh, and then I was nervous about trying to move people around. I thought I'd totally screw it up.
I get it. Yeah.
So
You had fun.
we'll just have to meet in person. You know, I'm very happy to, when this is over, stop the recording and keep the room open if people want to visit a little. I'm happy to do that. I don't have to be anywhere else.
Also, just a reminder, Cricket, we had talked about, and I think we should do it, that when the project is complete, doing this again,
Oh yeah.
we can all, and we'll premiere the video, and we might want to break out into chat rooms again at that point.
Right, and then I can start assigning people as the meeting is going on. It's just hard for me to do both those things at once.
Oh, totally.
And we can all bring snacks and wine.
Yes,
Right.
that's a good idea. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and take a minute, and I'm just going to share my audio, but I have to do something to do that. So you're going to hear the all parts, all voices with the oboe, everything else. Mitchell, are you going to try, in spite of the lag time, to conduct us a bit?
I'm not, because I think I'll do more harm than good if I did.
All right, then we're on our own. So give me a moment to do this.
And while you're doing that, can everyone please mute?
Oh, thank you for
Good
that
idea.
reminder. Yeah. Okay. Computer audio. Share. Okay.
And
Wow, you all sounded so great. At least I think you did.
Thank you. Well, this has just been a wonderful evening I know for me. I hope that everyone has really enjoyed it. Do we have any last minute questions or comments and as I said, I'm happy if people want to stay afterwards and visit with people they haven't seen in a long time. I'm happy to keep the Zoom room open.
I know I talk more than anybody, but I just want to say so happy to see 50 of us here in this meeting tonight. That is really, really heartwarming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I see a question from Vanessa.
Oh, okay.
I'm confused about the clap. Is it just on the downbeat of the first measure?
Yeah, did you see where in the instructions, in the conductor's notes, there's a paragraph about where to put the clap? I'm just curious if you saw that.
I did not, and I will go back and reread it. I must have missed that one. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and also just to remind you that you'll be probably recording to the YouTube video of Mitchell conducting your voice part, or some of our singers actually discovered they preferred to record to a different voice part because they like to be able to harmonize.
Yep.
But you'll hear 4 metronome, there'll be silence, and then you hear 4 beats that sound like a wood block, it's metronome, and then that's where you clap right after that. And that's the downbeat of the accompaniment that starts the piece. So.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I stole from Eric Whitaker.
Yeah, that really helps. Anybody else have any questions before people start to leave? Okay, well then, I know for us, we've asked our singers to have their videos into us by the 22nd. And we're all gathering them up for Mitchell, and then he'll get them all if he hasn't gotten some already. So anyway, and then we'll see you out the other side of the project.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And Brio, we're joining our regular session.
That's right. You have a rehearsal. Okay.
Just a brief hello.
Okay, then I'll let
Thank you.
all go. Bye.
Thank you, Cricket. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Dory.
Oh,
really-
you're welcome. I'm going to go off to Peninsula Cantari, so I am going to probably have to close this room. Is that okay with you all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Close it up.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Bye.